Well, hello, good evening. It's Sunday night. We've just gone, I believe, 7 minutes past 10 o'clock in London, UK. How's everybody doing? How's your week been? It's good to see people joining us in the chat room. As you can see, it's just me. And the lovely Val is not well tonight. She's not feeling at all well. So if we can all send her lots of love and healing, I know it would be much appreciated. So I have some wonderful people who are going to be here with me tonight, and I'm going to bring them on in a minute. But it's going to be a bit of a two-girl show for a little while before we bring the other lovely person on. But today, Super Bowl, I know you guys must be super excited over in the United States to watch that. And it's going to be on very, very late in the UK as well. But here we are, as I say, Sunday night, Wicked Women, the art of letting go. And it is just me without the lovely Val. So I'm going to bring in one of my lovely co-hosts is here. I'm going to bring the gorgeous and very lovely Sabrina, who has come to join me. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling. How are you?
It's very lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me join. I'm so happy to be here.
I was like, come on, you got to come back.
Absolutely. I'm sorry I missed last week.
That's okay. You know, we can't always do it. And it's like tonight, as I said, Val is poorly tonight. So, and I'm really hoping she starts to feel better soon. And she was going to do her best to be here tonight, but as the show goes on and the Wickeds are still here in one way or the other, just want to welcome everyone that's on the chat room. Let's see who we've got. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Carlene. Hi, Daniel. Daniel, hello. It's not often we see you here. It's good to see you. And obviously Michael's there as well. So today's show, the art of letting go, saying goodbye. I don't know about you, Sabrina, but I'm absolutely crap at saying goodbye.
I'm not very good at it either. I tend to be one of those people who are very nostalgic. So if I have to say goodbye, it takes a very, very long time for me to come to terms with that and to grieve having, grieve that process or to grieve the relationship.
It's I don't know what it is, whether it's the finality of I'm never going to talk to this person and again, I'm never going to see them again. And when we're talking about letting go and saying goodbye, we can look at various different areas: relationship, friendship, a lover, or death. You're actually saying goodbye to someone and letting them go, which I know only too well is not an easy thing to do. With recent, I think you were saying that this topic couldn't have come along more apt this week for you. Is that right?
Yes. It's strange that this was the topic, kind of uncanny, actually. I ran into an ex-boyfriend on Wednesday at a conference and haven't seen him for probably 2 years. And I've been grieving and getting over that relationship in all the ways that I possibly can to find closure, because I didn't get it from that person at the time that we broke up the way that I wish I had. So, I mean, it was a very welcomed meeting and interaction, but it did open up a lot of those emotions again. And it was hard for me to process them. But I thank God for friends like you and friends that I have here in New Mexico. I was able to talk through it a lot and find the silver lining in it all, right?
Yeah, I think, that's the thing, isn't it? The ex that comes back out of the blue that we haven't had closure from, we haven't shut the door on, and we think we've got over it, and in some ways we have, but then we see them again. And that happened to me. I had a relationship which I was with them for about two and a half years, and it was quite a very, very strong emotive relationship. And when we split up, it was always like, what could have been? Was there more there? And it really hurt me. And even though I got into other relationships, it was always if I see him again, how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to do? And then we did bump in. We did get to chat again, and we actually dated for another 2.5 years after that. Wow. I would say we did clean out some of the demons and the closure, but it also didn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes, do you think that when we see someone from our past and we think there's still that spark, but do you think they work if you go back?
Honestly, I think if the relationship didn't survive the first iteration, there's probably some deeply rooted issues that need to be worked out before it could even be revisited and potentially successful. So not to say that it's impossible, but I think that timing is everything. And I think if neither one of you are able to get to where you need to be in a healthy relationship, it will never work. I've had 2 very serious relationships in my life. There was one with my marriage, and we broke up and got back together again while we were dating for 7 years. And that relationship was just toxic. I knew that there was all these red flags that it wasn't supposed to be. And yet I still married the guy, and 2 years later got divorced. Mm-hmm. So, contrast that with this other relationship I had for 3 years. And I mean, I think that through that relationship, I was able to learn so much more about myself and what I need from a partner. And after the breakup, I was able to do a lot more self-development and self-discovery. And I think if in a weird, abstract kind of upside down world, we could maybe revisit the relationship. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes we could try again because I've gone through so much growth and development. However, in that interaction I had with him, I got the sense that he's not done that growth. He hasn't had that opportunity to heal or to self-develop. So I don't think it would work right now. So it's really just like a case-by-case basis, I think, for everyone. How about you?
I mean, it's true, because when you get back with someone, people go, what did you do that for? And you think, well, because there's things left unsaid, there was unfinished business. Yeah. And I think you're right. You do have to have that time to grow and develop, and maybe the things that split you up the first time have to be worked through or cleared. The problem is saying goodbye. Like, sometimes we stay with someone or we stay with a relationship and we know we should leave it, but we're like, I don't know how to leave it. I don't know how to say goodbye. I don't know how to let this person go. And I think Val and I were talking this week when we were saying that we've all had those kind of relationships, and when you need to let go and you're like, this relationship's not good, and if someone very close to me is in a relationship with a guy, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to do anything at all. It's a situation that's not going to go anywhere. But unfortunately, until they're ready to say goodbye, until they're ready to let it go, they will carry on going round in that merry-go-round of like, I can't leave, but I'm not ready. I don't want to say goodbye. I don't want to let them go. And as a friend, all you can do is sit back and go, oh my God. But, but seeing her go through it is quite traumatic.
Absolutely. I think my marriage would have ended a lot sooner if I wasn't afraid of the ending. If I wasn't afraid of the shame associated with getting divorced, the shame associated with giving certain family members the sort of I had a lot of family members who weren't in support of this marriage. No one in my family came to the wedding. So that's indicative of how supportive they were, or rather not. And so there was a part of me that didn't want to give them the satisfaction, right, that it wasn't going to work. So I fought for it. I tried really hard to keep it going and went to counseling and did everything possible. But ultimately, when I finally found my voice and I found affirmations, through counseling, I had the courage to end it. And I'm actually so glad that it's over. And that one was actually very easy for me to move on, because it was so toxic and detrimental to my well-being.
Mm.
It was the second relationship thereafter that I felt like I had a much harder time letting go of, because there was so much potential, you know?
Yeah, those are the ones that, I mean, for me, it was like when my first marriage failed, and I thought to myself, we were friends. So there was never going to be a case of saying goodbye, because we were friends. But, and so we kind of went in this scenario of like, we would have moments where we would kind of get back together, and then we were friends again, and then we would get back together, and we weren't married anymore, and it went like up and down, up and down. And I think that I find it very hard to move on, and I always have had that problem but there have been some people in my life where I've gone, you need to go, I don't want to be with you anymore, and I've been glad to get rid of them, but they've been far and few between. And this topic was actually brought to us to talk about by somebody who is like, why is it some exes just cannot move on? Some exes, especially if you have children with them, especially if you're, you still have that connection with them, they still got to stick the knife in. They've still got to, it's like they cannot let it go. The bitterness, the pain, they don't want you, or maybe you didn't want them, but they don't want to see you happy. And I think that we've all got a toxic ex out there, that's for sure, who's like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and there's been friendships in the past too. I mean, to open this up to not just romantic relationship, but friendships and even family relationships. I've had a few situations where, unfortunately, I'm actually the one that's been pushed away by two family members, my two older sisters. They pushed away the whole family because of their own personal reasons. And I still have a lot of heartache over it, because it's almost like when someone dies, there's no way of ever getting to see them physically again, right? And you can absolutely, there's something absolute about that, right? It's a finite, never going to be able to see him again. When you lose a family member through estrangement, there's something unsettling about it, because you're trying to constantly reconcile that there's somebody that is important to you in your life, that is still out there and is actively deciding not to be part of your world. Yes. That part is incredibly hard to process for me personally, and I'm curious what other people think.
I mean, I have a family member who I haven't seen for almost 20 years, and I had to move myself away from that situation. There was never a goodbye. There was never a conversation. There was never anything like that. I just cut it dead. It wasn't the easiest decision to do whatsoever. But my life benefited for not having that. And sometimes we have to walk away from family, and especially the people that don't have our back, who are toxic, who are like, there are some family members who are like, don't do as I do, do as I tell you, or belittle your choices and decisions. And it was very much a toxic situation that I had to leave behind me. And I wonder how their point of view, I feel from their point of view, even though they've kind of moved on like I have with my life, from what I hear, there's still that bitterness in them. There's still that nastiness, bitterness, from where I'm concerned. And I have not gone near them. I have not communicated. I've not talked to them. They just don't exist. And I think that some people out there, they just don't have your back no matter what you do.
Yeah, I think you're right that in some cases it's absolutely called for to end a relationship with whoever it is, if it's toxic and it's detrimental to your health, right? To your mental health and your physical health. I think that in my case, luckily, I didn't have a situation like this. I was able to set boundaries. I think that's so important. If you have a relationship with somebody that may not be necessarily detrimental to your health and well-being, but it's not good for you. Like you can tell that it causes you maybe to want to drink more, or it causes you want to have anxiety, or it makes you feel somehow devalued. In those cases, I think it's so important to know how to set your boundaries and be able to have communication with that person, but on a very limited level.
Yeah. And I also think as well that we've all got that toxic person we know in our life, you know, as maybe it's a toxic friend, or maybe it's a toxic someone, and you're like, oh, you know, and you see them and you haven't got the guts to say, look, I just don't want you in my life anymore. So what you're trying to do is you kind of maybe you ghost them, or you avoid seeing them, and they're like, what have I done? Why don't you want to talk to me? Oh, I haven't seen you for ages, what's going on? And you're trying to desperately dance out of, well, you know, I've been busy and things have been different, and actually you're like, I just haven't had the guts to turn around and say, actually, I don't want you in my life. And now we use social media. Now we go onto Facebook or Instagram and we block them, or WhatsApp. We block them because we do not have the guts to say bye.
Yeah. Bye.
You know,
I'm done with this. It's not good for me. Yeah.
So we become cowards.
Yeah.
Because
I know it's a challenge, right? I think in some cases it's absolutely called for to ghost, or to end the relationship without any dialogue. Again, get back to if it means that it's good for your health and well-being, or if you don't do that, you're depriving your health and well-being in some way. But if you feel like in my case, here's where I struggled with not finding closure with my past long-term relationship. It ended over a phone call, and the person was traveling with family, and I was traveling, and we were both going to be back in the same place within a week. And I thought it was just so such a slap in the face, and so disingenuous to have that conversation over the phone. Like I would have, if it were me, and if I were to initiate the conversation that the relationship needed to end, I would have waited, and I would have had that conversation in person. So that to be said, though, I feel like he had his reasons, and I have to respect that, right? But now, thankfully, having run into him this past week, I was able to voice that and tell him I was really hurt by how he handled it. And you know what? To be fully transparent, I think our relationship was on the rocks and it was doomed to end. Trust had been broken between us, and he had more, I think, of the courage to end it, and because I would have probably kept trying to make it work.
You know, that's very brave words there, because to actually know something is ending and actually go, oh my God, because you know, when you're in that relationship and you know it's coming to an end and you're like, oh, I don't know how this is going to happen, but somehow one of us is going to say it. And sometimes you start an argument, or sometimes they start an argument, and then you've got the ones that just go, that you know, and a phone is to say goodbye to someone, to let someone go by the phone. It takes a lot of guts to see someone face to face and go, look, you're not going to like this, because it's a lot of courage to say that. So we use the phone, or we use social media to say those things, or we ghost them.
Yeah.
There's just that they were there 1 minute and they were gone the next.
Right.
And what did I do? And it's like, you know, when they say good ways of letting go, I'm not sure. I think I actually agree with you. One of the, if the relationship is healthy enough, because if you're in a violent relationship, if you're in a toxic relationship, sometimes you don't need to say goodbye. You just got to get the hell out, right? As soon as you get the opportunity, run and get out. But if you're in a situation where you can say goodbye to someone, you have got to, I would say, take the ball by the hand and actually say, look, face to face, because that's, if you've cared enough to be with that person for a period of time, you should care enough to say that to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to bring in Michael because he's joining us tonight as an honorary Wicked, Mr. Wicked, but also he has some experience that with this that literally like you came up and bit him. So let's bring in. Hello there, sweetie.
Hello, ladies, looking lovely as ever.
Thank you.
No, just in 24 minutes, I just going to shoot this from the hip because this is close to me and it has came home to me here recently. And, first of all, when I went to get my passport, I thought something was done. It was not done because a county clerk did not want to do her job. And I'm like, okay, so now how do I get rid of this? And it is the mother of two of my children. And every time, I spend more time with my oldest son now. And, she called him the other day and just laid into him because he is spending time with me. And, she's not a part of my life. She will never, ever, ever again be a part of my life. And she's like, oh, I bet you let your dad talk all kinds of shit about me. I know he brings me up. And Michael Allen was like, no, he never mentions your name. He could care less. Oh, how could he just write me off? And I'm thinking it's real easy. You cheated on me when I was deployed. You cheated on me, whatever, you're done. You're written off. If I lost the face of the planet, I won't care less. I have nothing good or bad to say or indifferent. And, and I've told all of my kids, sometimes you just have to cut toxic people plumb out of your life. Treat them like cancer. Make a surgical strike, cut them out, walk away from it, and you'll be better off.
Yeah.
But and you're talking about family. I haven't spoke to my brothers since 2015, the day we buried my mom. And that goes back to his wife. She's toxic. She is toxic from the word go. My mom said she sucked all the goodness out of her room just by walking into it.
Wow.
And you know what? My life is a whole lot better off. And some of the messages about letting go, Wendy has saw some of them because, it was going through my social media stuff. And she actually read some of the messages. She didn't want me, but she didn't want any other woman to be happy with me. And some of it was, it was nasty. I'm like, where the hell did that happen at?
And that's the bitterness that still eats them up. And we got a comment here from Queen who says, I never got closure in my last relationship. He never actually broke up with me. Instead, he just vanished. He would respond to text, but the second I asked about our relationship, he would disappear. And I can tell you why he did that. Because on text, it's very easy to just go tick, 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 and it means nothing. There's no effort. There's no emotional commitment. They don't have to get involved. The moment you would ask him about the relationship, it's like, oh, hang on. That's too much involved. She goes on to say, to me, that's just being a coward. Look me in the eyes and tell me you're done. If you're done, grow some balls. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm going to star that because it is. It takes balls to say to someone, Michael, do you find it easy to say goodbye to people, or do you find it not so easy?
Somebody I really care about, I don't want, I guess, it to be over with or whatever. And you always say, see you later. You never say goodbye. But I have figured out the hard way. You can never go back. There's mistrust. There's a reason it ended before. And that's not going to get better with time. It's only going to fester. It's going to be like an abscess, and it's just going to grow and grow and grow. So when you try to return and redo that, I'm taking abnormal psychology now. And that's like Jason. I seen him pop up here. He said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And and some people said, "Oh no," and it's like, and we've all had that friend with his significant other or her significant other said, "Oh, we're on today, well, we're off tomorrow." Their Facebook status changes more than most people would change their underwear. It's like, oh, and it's like, and these people who have found their soulmate 15 times in 1 year, I'm thinking, holy fuck, how do you do that? I call it soulmate of the week, and I'm like, wow,
Why is it, Michael, do you think that people, sorry, Sabrina, why do you think that people find it hard to say goodbye, Michael?
Sometimes it's their own misgivings. Me, I stayed for a long time because I didn't like Sabrina said, I didn't want it, to be the one in my family who said, Oh, look, we knew it was a screw up. Look, you screwed up a marriage, or and you stay to prove a point. And sometimes you can kick the can on down the road, as they say, and hope things get better. Oh, I just got to get over this hump. I just got to get over this hump. And you just keep trying to push it forward because nobody wants to be a failure in life. Nobody wants to wake up and say, hey, I'm a screw up. And I should be getting into that pretty soon. So there's probably going to be a lot of internal looking at here.
Yeah.
This is quite amazing, similar to a guy.
Hi, Kevin. How you doing? It's a buddy of mine. I have to say, like, when you split, when you've been with someone for a long time, you're not only saying goodbye to that person, you're saying goodbye to a way of life. You're saying goodbye to maybe a home, or, you're breaking up the family. So when you're actually saying goodbye, it's like, oh my God, it's not just me never seeing them again. It's everything I've been used to, my way of life, my home, money, finances, all kinds like that. But when someone dies, and we don't often get the chance to say goodbye to someone when they pass, Sabrina, that leaves deep scars.
Oh gosh, absolutely. I mean, I had the privilege of being able to say goodbye to my stepmother when she was passing away from cancer. But I found out about a dear friend of mine passing away through Facebook. I saw a post from a loved one that said something to the effect of "Rest in peace, John, blah, blah, blah. We're going to miss you." And I about fell apart because he had died of a heart attack. And there was never any option for me to ever talk to him again, right? And to ever tell him how much I appreciated our friendship, and to, and possibly maybe I could have helped in some way. There's a part of me that has guilt in not being able to have helped prevent that somehow for them. I don't know. Yeah. How have you processed losing somebody?
Well, my uncle was found on the floor, and he'd been gone about 3 days. They think, and we found him. My sister found him, and then I went round, and I remember thinking how awful that he died alone, and no one was with him, and there was a lot of, like you say, guilt. Because he liked to sometimes be on his own. He didn't always answer the phone if you called him. He didn't always pop round to see you. So it wasn't rare to not hear from him. It was just the way he was. And it was like, I always think that nobody should die on their own, and sadly a lot of people do. But I think that for me, it was like, I had another friend, Justin. I was very close to him. He died at 51. He very, very sudden, out of the blue, just as COVID hit. And so he couldn't even have a memorial or a funeral. So none of us got to say goodbye to him. And this is big empty space in my life where, two people that I cared about deeply just died very within a short time of each other. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to pay my respects to them. So what I did was I wrote a letter. I wrote a letter to my uncle, and then I changed it to his to read out at his funeral, and it was like it broke my heart to do it, but I did it because it was my way of saying, look, I hope you can see this. But what I did do was write a letter to him and put it on his coffin, and as he was cremated, it went in with him. And I did actually get a message back from a medium to actually say, and it was the weirdest thing, she just said, your uncle's here, and she described how he passed and everything, and she said, he wants you to know he read your letter. And I was like, oh my God, like that was a bit of a gamble. I might never. But I think for me, it was all the things. Sometimes when someone's dying, do we actually want to go in, Michael, and say goodbye to them? Do we actually want to go in and say goodbye? No, you just recently lost your dad. Did you want to go in and say goodbye to him? Want to do that?
There was a lot of closure that I wanted, and I got part of it. I took the boys in. They said goodbye to their grandfather. But go back to what Sabrina says. Even with my background, a lot of times you have survivor guilt.
Yeah.
Well, I made it out. Why didn't my friend make it out? My battle buddy. And a lot of times, and that's what, and I see that, and I've seen the suffering and stuff like that. And I was there when my mom passed also, and which she had a stroke. She was in the hospital for 30 plus days, and every day was a challenge. And when I went back in, I was there, and you do get some closure, but it is hard. When I made the end of life decisions for my mom, it aged me overnight.
I would, yeah.
And my beard turned gray overnight, and I'm like, wow, okay. And I had come from a very rough background growing up and in the Army, and I thought, I can handle anything, and that broke me. That really, really broke me. But no, it isn't. But that's the reason when you're talking about closure with death or whatever, I said, yeah, a Ouija board. Then you brought up a medium. You can always say goodbye. Just get the board out.
Right.
Make sure you know who you're talking to.
Well, I mean, a Ouija board is obviously something you have to be careful how you use, because I must just say that as a clairvoyant, it's not something I would recommend unless you've got a medium or someone in there to hold that space for a Ouija board to be used. Because if you use a Ouija board without someone to hold that space, and you utter the immortal words, is there anybody there? Well, you're going to get anyone that's going to come in. So sometimes when your grief is high, and I was saying the other week, Henry's been gone almost 4 months, and it doesn't seem possible, and I still haven't. I'm like, is he okay? Why haven't I heard from him? Why haven't I seen him? And you have all these questions. And I think, what happens, Michael, when you're in the Army, using this example, and you lose people? Obviously you were in the Gulf War and everything. When you lost them, and you did, how would you say goodbye to them? How would you let them go?
We always say to Valhalla, brother, and you have a toast to them. And even when we have our dining ins or dining outs or any get together, Veterans Day, there's always a place set for that person, for the KIA, the MI, the mission and action. And we always, honor our fallen dead. And when I see people, it's like, oh, I'll sit there. I'm like, no, you won't. You're going to have a whole group of men and women that will tear you apart, because that's how we grieve. That's the reason I always, and I even tell my boys, let me go out with my boots on. I don't want to die in bed. That's what old men do. And it's the same way. And coming from that side, it is, it is a very different lifestyle. It's a very different mentality. You figure you're already dead before you get there. So if you come home, it's party time. And to actually lose somebody, it is very, very hard. And we lost people to, like I said, YouTube's really weird. They unalived herself. We lost 3 in 18 months in a unit. And that hurt worse than, because, our units never lost anyone in combat. People got hurt, whatever. But to have people have that happen when you get home, because you don't see a lot of the injuries that these guys bring home. A lot of it is internal, and they push it down and push it down. And her dog's barking. He hears her voice. He's been really good about as long as he can be. He's like, hey, tell him to let me out. But I had to put him up, or he'd be all up in here. But no, it is very hard when you lose somebody like it. It is, my eyes are wet now, and that's the reason I said 22 a day is a real number. I've seen it. And that goes back to other issues that we have right now. I always say veterans before anybody else, because they actually laid things on the line
Well,
Super
yes.
sober.
I mean, you do. You give your life for your country.
I
I've
always
got Jason that's waiting to come in. I'm about to bring him in a second. But here's a question I'm going to ask all of you. What happens when someone says goodbye to us, and we don't want them to say goodbye to us? We don't want to be said
Oh.
goodbye, and all of a sudden we're happy. We think everything's going along okay, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, someone says, "Thanks very much, but no thanks. Let's just bring the lovely Jason on." Hello, young man.
Oh, I thought my hair was messed up. Jesus Christ.
How
Look at
are
that
you?
Doing all right. Just trying to get stuff squared away at the house.
It's kind of like the Brady Bunch. We've got 2 women, 2 guys. You know, look at that. I know. Hi, your neighbor.
Yeah, you know,
What?
Mike was touching on some of the stuff that we do. You know, we have the KIA, MIA, PAW table at every event, and there's a lot of symbolism, whichever applies, because my definitions are failing me this afternoon. Too many cleaning products and too many moving boxes. So
been there.
yeah, you know, there's all kinds of things that are present there at the table to you know, be a reminder for that, for those fallen, those missing. You know, but we do things in theater as well. And for those listening, in theater is not theater. Theater is in the theater of war. So
the rifle, the helmet, the boots.
we have the Soldier's Cross, and we usually have typically a unit ceremony surrounding the Soldier's Cross, and there's one for every personnel lost in whichever particular engagement it's coming after. We also hold ramp ceremonies following that, and that's where we basically begin the process of the transfer of dignified transfer of remains.
Yeah.
So we load the caskets onto the back of the C-130 or the C-17, flag draped, and you know, send them on their way out of theater. I've lost people to the 22 a day. You know, I say I've lost. You know, the one that sticks out most. He wasn't one of my mechanics, but he was from the next shop down, or the primary shop, the automotive shop, when I was with 10th Mountain, and he, you know, he ended up PCSing to Alaska and getting stationed up there, and then he ended up getting out there, and he was just so broken physically and mentally from all the deployments and the kind of abuse that your body takes, that, you know, he joined the 22 a day. And I found out via social media. My former company commander, you know, made a post, and it's like, whoa, hold on, wait, Goose? No way. And you know, I messaged Bruce and I asked him about Goslin and what happened and things like that. And, you know, when you have people like that and you're at a distance, and that's one of those things that I think the military, if you have the mindset for it, and it's something that you stick with for a while, it shapes and molds you, not just, you know, physically and, you know, endurance and things like that, and discipline, but also in compartmentalization, because you're rotating out of some place every 3 to 4 years, going to a new location, having to kind of, you know, put down roots again, pick up roots, and then put down again, you know, rinse, repeat. It becomes easy to compartmentalize things, and there's kind of an ability to look at things clinically. So if you're reading, you know, after action reports, or you're watching events take place on a Blue Force tracker screen, and it's just, you know, you're getting the fippers coming in talking about the numbers, you know, there's a certain clinical aspect to it. You're detached, and it's kind of, you know, oh man, I wish I was there for that. Wish I could have been there for that person. Could I have said something more? Could I have done something more? But then you realize they're effectively in an entirely different country when you're looking at a place like Alaska, where Goslin was when he passed, and where I was. You're thousands of miles. There's not a lot that you can do, or could have done.
It leaves the question. Sorry, Sabrina. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, it sounds like there's a similar process in the medical field then as well, to ensure that if a patient passes, that they communicate that to the loved ones of that person who passed clearly, explicitly. It helps with the grieving process to hear they have passed away, they have died. Like that specifically can help with the grieving, and it's required.
Okay, I was going to ask Sabrina, being in the medical field, JP went way farther in depth than I was going to, because there's a lot of times, it's almost like, pro wrestling. We don't want to pull the belt all the way back. It's like a kayfabe. What happens, the soldier's cross, the rifle, boot, and helmet. But also a lot of time, like you said, help me out with that big word, repatriating, a soldier's remains back to the country. In World War II, when we showed the Germans, hey, you're not going to mess with our British cousins, you mess with their boats, now shit. And so there's a lot of people that was left in France and these other countries, and I think they actually passed a law and said if there's any way possible that we will bring our men and women home, and they can move here. But there's a thing that I saw here a while back at the VA, and I forgot about it because I have participated in a lot of drops for and you can ask Jason, even if you did not know the person and you was tasked, because we had it as an additional duty, they'd say, hey, you're on flag detail, and flag detail meant you're just going to fold the flag over the casket, present it to the family, based of a graceful nation, So then, and I tell people that was some of my most rewarding time in the Army, was being able to be there for a family who I didn't know, they didn't know me. And I'll tell you what, I was the only white guy one time at an all-black church, and I was brought in like family.
Yeah.
And this guy was a World War II veteran. Him and his buddy went in together, and he's like, if you would have told me a white NCO was folding one of our flags at our death, he said, I told you it's crazy as hell. But it goes back to the honor walk. And I just saw one here a while back at the VA. They had a veteran pass away. And they called it down, and they have a code for it. And I know they do it in the regular hospitals also. If a veteran passes away and somebody's coming in to pick them up, to take them out, they usually have American Legion or the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars, come in, and they'll break out the flag, and they'll drape it over them, and they'll roll them out to the hearse or however they're transporting them out. But it's called an honor walk, and that's another way that we say goodbye to old friends. But even like with the 22 a day, logistically speaking, you make friends from all over the world.
I also think like the Vikings, if you think about when the Vikings would let someone go, they would do the whole ceremony with the burning. And I think that, one topic, it's not that we're talking about death tonight, but we're talking about how to say goodbye and let go. And in some ways, goodbye can also be a celebration of someone. But I remember I was going to ask you guys that question, like, what happens when someone says goodbye to you, and I'm not saying they died, but you're dating them, and you think everything's fine and everything's dandy, and then next thing you know, it's like, I need to have a word with you about something. And you're like, I remember dating someone, being super, super happy with them. Everything was going swimmingly well. There was kisses and hugs on all the text messages. And all of a sudden it was like, I'll meet you for a drink tonight. So I'm thinking, okay, I'll meet them for a drink. Looking fabulous. I sit down. No sooner had I got the drink, sat down. It was like, I can't do this anymore. I want to blow up. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm here to meet you for a drink. And it's like, no, I don't want this anymore. My feelings have changed. You could have knocked me down with a straw, because it came from out the blue, and I was like, and you find yourself going, but why are you doing this? Why do you want to leave? What have I done? What changed it for you? Why didn't you mention this to me before? What happened then? And you have all these questions coming up, and the other person's going, well, I just don't want to do this anymore, and I just want to leave. This is so uncomfortable, and I need to run away from you. And I remember they just sort of pat me on the shoulder and said, have a good life, and basically left me in a ball of tears in the pub. Sabrina, as I'm going to come to you first, has that happened to you? And you're like trying to ask them not to say goodbye to you?
Oh gosh, I'm sure it has, and I'm sorry that it's happened to you. I think the hardest part about that kind of loss or that kind of breakup is the fact that you have to reconcile with yourself all on your own why it didn't work, like what happened. And you're going through your mind trying to replay everything that's led up to that moment to find out, how did that happen? And then you're also having to grieve all these ideas that and dreams you had for the future, maybe for the two of you, like you were planning a trip to go to Costa Rica or something, right? Yes. And then you have to process that, and it's such a process. And I think it's so important to have these tools or these rituals or these practices to process that grief. I especially appreciate the writing the letters. I think that's really helpful to get it out. But yes, it's definitely shocking, and it's like getting dumped with a bucket of water. I recently had something similar kind of happen. It was kind of to be expected, but I guess I was shocked by it because I thought that there was more chance for it to work out than not, and it felt like just like a bucket of ice cold water being dumped on me.
And I think also, like, imagine if you've got to do the dumping, right? You've got to do the dumping. Mm-hmm. I don't think unless someone's really a shitbag or absolutely really toxic, you don't really relish the task of that conversation you've got to have with them. It's like, right, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah, it's like a Band-Aid. You just want to pull it off really quick. And
how the hell am I going to say it? So you're talking and you're like, and yet they know it's coming. They know. And Jason's looking at me so you can tell he's been there, but they know it's coming. And you're like, so there was just something I was just going to say. And people are like, what is that? And you're like, well, it's just not working out. And then they go, what do you mean? And then you yourself are in that position that you've been in before, where someone else is trying to talk you out of it. And I think that then there could be tears, then there could be anger, then there could be resentment and bitterness, and like, how dare you do this after everything we've been through, all the things that we've shared, and you're just dumping me. And what if you've met someone else, right? And you want to be with that person, and you might not always tell them that straight away. So, like, when it comes to Jason, like, Jason, have you been in that situation? I'm sure you have been, perhaps the dumper and the dumpee. And, like, how did you go around saying goodbye to someone, letting them go?
I have been fortunate in the fact that my issues where I'm on the receiving end of a out of the blue kind of thing have been minuscule, and so minuscule that I really can't give you a good example.
Wow.
Where I can talk about it intelligibly. Typically, if there's been dumping, there have been issues. Yeah. And it's something that's come to a head one way or the other.
Yeah.
In turn, and that's being on the business end of that. Being on the executioner end, I have had to do that a couple of times, and probably 3 years ago, something like that. No, God, just about 4 years ago at this point. I was dating a very, very lovely gal, lived in Chicago. We met through, of all things, a page on Facebook that had originally started life as kind of a veterans only club, if you will, and then kind of got too big for its own walls and started expanding out into other areas and including other people, while I was in Afghanistan. And we made a go of it, even long distance. But I kind of, after having my kids out for the summer and knowing that she, wanted to have children of her own, and looking at my own teenage kids at that point and realizing, and maybe it sounds selfish, maybe it sounds horrible initially here, but I kind of came to the realization that I wasn't entirely sure that I could be okay with myself giving somebody new coming into the world all the things that my kids did not get from me.
Yeah.
Because their mother and I were divorced when they were very young. And that's not to say that I wasn't in their lives or things like that, but it's a different kind of attention. It's a different kind of presence when you're there every day. And I wasn't sure I could actually deal with my own conscience in giving her what she wanted, and then having to worry that my own children would sit there and not necessarily resent me, but maybe seeing they're getting everything that dad never gave me. And I have a terribly guilty conscience over things with enough time with the kids and things like that. And the distances that there have been for a very long time now. And, I had to come to the conclusion that, it's not fair to her to potentially deny her something that is so crucially important to what she wants in life.
So how did you do it?
Well, unfortunately, it was a over video chat kind of thing. Again, me out here in North Dakota, her in the Democratic People's Republic of Chicago. And so if I had waited until the next time that I visited, it could have been months, just depending on schedules and all the COVID crap was going on at the same time too, so it was one of those things where it had to be done by distance. And I know I hurt her, but at the same time she knew where it was coming from, and I made that very clear where it was coming from. And so there would be no doubt in her mind that it wasn't, I wasn't satisfied with her, or I wasn't trying to, chase skirts or whatever. It was, there's a very clear set of reasons why I was doing it. And it hurt me too. But to this day, we're still friends. We don't talk often. She's remarried now. She gives me happy birthday comments. We'll comment occasionally on something stupid or funny that I post on Facebook because I had nothing better to do at the time, that sort of thing.
I think Sabrina, because you messaged something then, is that relating to something for you, Sabrina, that?
I think, so I'm feeling like two things here. In terms of how to be the one who is ending it, I think showing respect and doing what you can to show respect for the relationship and ending it, right, and dealing with it delicately is so important. But I was going to say, there's something so interestingly satisfying by knowing that you're not the only one who's grieving the relationship, that it's also really hard on you or on the other person to get through that breakup. My interaction with my ex this past week, that's something he said, and it actually helped me feel a little bit better, oddly, to know that it wasn't just me that had my heart broken, right? I'm curious what other people think, though.
I don't know. It sounded like Jason was smart. You do it with safe space and distance, because a lot of women don't take the whole breakup speech. It's not you, it's me. It's
So, Michael, are you
if
speaking
she had
from
been present, I would have driven over to her house. It's kind of different when you're separated by 700
No.
miles or whatever it is.
no. I'm being funny about that. Like I said, and there was an issue that we was talking about. Somebody had got rid of somebody that was an alcoholic and very toxic, and even though he's trying to let it go, she pops up on everybody else's social media and calls them bad names or whatever. And a lot of times you do not see a toxic trait until you're on the way out.
Oh yeah.
Then you walk out and you got four flats. You got initials, keyed into the side of your ride. You got bricks in your window. And it's like, you really see the real person when it's like, oh, it's not you, it's me. We need to see other people. Things are just not progressing, in the timeline. I thought, and there's always, and like I said, sometimes no matter how respectful you try to be and how, the old cliches that come out, there's going to be resentment from the other person. And
But
how
do you
far that
think when you're saying goodbye to someone, do you think that there's like, how dare you split up with me? How dare you end this? Is that what you're saying? Then they react violently to it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I have seen that a lot. They're like, oh, who do you want to be with? And I've seen people tell them, I don't want to be with nobody. Oh, you sure? What's her name? I'll go beat her up or whatever, And you usually when you see them at a pub or a bar, you can tell when somebody's getting the goodbye speech. Usually there's a lot of profanity. There's probably a drink thrown in somebody's face. Then the entertainment really starts. Then it goes downhill really quick. But I know why some people want to do it in a public place because they feel there's witnesses for the blow up, and you can say, hey, it's not me. And I seen your friend said that was too much for him. I was going to tell him that we apologize to Kevin that did go down a dark road. But when you lose somebody in the art, it is very, very, it's pretty traumatic to us too. But the Queen of Hades or whatever, she said, she was in her relationship for 7 years and she deserved more. And, this guy just rolled out and I could, nothing bad against her, but if she could have got a hold of him a couple of weeks later, that, I'd be the same way. Somebody pops out of my life. I've been with them for 7 years. I don't get a reply text, whatever. I'd be upset too. It would probably be a lot of profanity, like, how could you do this to me?
But sometimes we can't say goodbye because we are perhaps scared to say things, or we are scared to go down that road. And so what we do is we might pick a fight. So we'll pick a fight with someone as an easier way of ending it with them, because that fight will escalate and you go, I just don't want this anymore. I just don't want this. And I knew you were going to do that. So I know people that have picked a fight deliberately to end a relationship, to get away, to say goodbye, rather than actually saying, I don't want to be with you anymore. And I also I know of people that have gone looking for someone else, hoping that that person will find out so they can then, I wanted to close the door anyway. So I think that we have problems saying goodbye. We certainly do. And, Jason talks about being respectful and feeling guilt for having to do it over the phone. And I think whenever you say, I'm sorry, I don't want to be with you anymore, there is that, oh God, they're just going to hate me forever. And then if you ever met, and this is going to make you chuckle. Have you ever dumped someone? Have you ever said goodbye? And then you've seen them a short while later and you've gone, what the hell did I do that for? I wasn't in my right mind at that point. And they look good and you're like, I shouldn't have done that. And they come around and they look at you and they go,
Definitely.
Yeah, you said goodbye to me. Jason, you've not had that?
I've never dealt with that. That has never been. I think I have possibly been on a little bit on the receiving end of it, but I've never been in a situation where it's like, oh man, I was stupid for dumping her, or things like that. Like that's like, okay, so that is something for me and my humble opinion, whatever that's worth in the world.
$2.
That's a superficial thing, right? And and we are all subject to it at times, but I try my best to make sure that I am not a superficial person. And I try to take people at the value of the whole rather than, oh, they're hot, or things like that. I have.
No, it's the eyebrow, the heart. I just had to say.
What?
I'm trying to track where you're going with this, JP. Can you elaborate more?
He's going around the barn to let the cows out.
Yeah.
Come on, Jason. Get it out.
I've never been in that situation to where it's like, hey, I should have held on to that, because by the time I'm breaking up with someone or someone is breaking up with me, and here lately in the last few years, it's been me breaking up with people, because I think my tolerance levels for things, because I'm getting too old to deal with it. I'm Griggs or Murtaugh or whoever it was in Lethal Weapon. I'm too old for this shit.
Yeah,
like
I see that a lot.
Right there's it's not something where I'm even at the point of like, man, they were so hot and I shouldn't have done that. Even if they came back looking, like a complete 10 and we departed and they were an 8 or
okay, but
whatever.
wait a minute. So as far as looks are concerned, I feel like yes, that's maybe an aspect of it, but I think more importantly what Wendy's getting to is that you realize that you lost somebody that was actually really good for you, that you fucked up because there was something that you did that you weren't
because
in the right place to be there for them and show up for that relationship, because you weren't maybe mature enough to be there for that, right?
Right. The way it sounded to me as Wendy said it was that situation of we've dumped somebody and then we see them a couple of years later and like they've had this major glow up and it's like, shit. Yeah. Right.
They went
like,
from the ugly duck to the
swamp. Now if you want to talk about or the people that later on I look at it and I regret that, that person was really, really good for me. And maybe I made a mistake, whether it was leaving or whether it wasn't putting forth enough effort in the right ways or not being aware enough to put forth the right amount of effort, in the right way. I mean, I've been in that situation, again, not very frequently. The one that I can readily think of, it was she was an Arabic linguist. She was a writer. She was an editor. She was incredibly intelligent. You could have intellectual conversations with her all day. She was very independent. She was fire and forget. I knew if I went down range, I didn't have anything to worry about, and that stuff was going to be taken care of back home. Like, but at the same time, is it like, do I really feel regret about the relationship ending, especially at this point? No, because she's off doing her thing. She's being an editor like she wanted to be. That was her dream. She's doing what she wants to do. I still occasionally see some of her stuff pop up and we chit chat a little bit, here and there. And it's like, hell yeah, dude, you're doing your thing. And I'm happy for you. Like,
so personally, Wendy, I can say that I have had this feeling of like, okay, I was not in a place maturity wise to be able to have a good relationship with this person, and something internally and within me was rejecting somebody that was actually good for me, that was healthy for me. I was more attracted to the people who were not good for me. I think this is very common for women, especially. They go for the bad guys, right?
Oh
yeah. And so
now
when
do
I look back, there's been at least 3 occasions where I said, you know what, I should have given that relationship a better chance, because it could have actually probably been really good if I just let it happen. And
I was the same when I walked from my first marriage. He was an incredibly good guy, got on extremely well. I'd known him many, many years, and we'd just grown apart. And I remember I walked from it, and then he went and traveled round the world, sort of thing. And then when I would see him, it would be, oh wow, like there's still that thing there. But I think the point is, we don't actually know they're bad men until we actually date them, and then we're kind of hooked on that then, because we actually don't go out looking for the bad men. We don't actually go, oh, there's a bad one, I'm going to date him. What we actually think is like a bit of a rascal now and then is we might know they might have a bit of a reputation.
I
But I
can
think
change him.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't
That's
think
what it is.
I don't
Well,
think that.
Wendy, what I think it happens, and this is my own personal experience, it might be different for other people, but what I've come to learn is that when we've experienced something in our life traumatically, or if we were somehow emotionally deprived in some way from a family member, a caregiver, usually, this is why there's women that have that unfortunate stamp of daddy issues, right? Or mommy issues. And I can say that I think that what happens is we find a relationship with somebody that feels familiar. So if you grew up in a family situation where you saw your parents being abusive towards each other, guess what's going to happen? You're going to wind up in a relationship like that, because that's what you know, that's what's familiar. And unfortunately,
that's your normal.
That's your normal. That's what feels good to you. That's what you, and honestly, I can speak to my most previous relationship. The reason why I was so attracted to him was because they were emotionally unavailable. And there's something so, something so like, I don't know what it is. It turns me on, and I have to go for it, because that's what and I'm also trying to work out this unfortunate emotional deprivation I had from my parents, and I'm trying to correct that. So now I have like awareness of this. I can actually go into a relationship and say, okay, you know what? A, maybe you are still in the midst of a divorce. Okay, goodbye. I can't talk to you. Or B, you have too many kids. Your life is too crazy. You're emotionally unavailable. You're not for me. I can't get involved with that, right? I can actually now say, oh, you're actually a healthy human being. And thank God I had, I went on a date this past week, and this guy was actually very, very oddly healthy. What I'm worried about, Wendy, is that in a few weeks,
when the shoe drops,
some kind of flip is going to get switched, and I'm going to say, this doesn't feel right, because it's not what I'm used to, and I have to talk about that.
100% know where you're coming from, because I have been in that situation. It's like, I'm not used to someone who's got their shit together, is normal, is healthy, and all of a sudden they go, you're waiting. There's got to be something bad about you. Where's it going to happen? And all of a sudden they go, look, what you see is what you get. This is who I am. And you're kind of
like my previous relationship.
And so we're actually looking. Sometimes we can actually sabotage and let a good relationship go because we're so used to the.
Well, that's self-sabotage is a huge thing, and I do want to say, as a divorced father of two, I have to stick up for the other divorced father of however many out there floating around. It's not very fair to write them all off with divorced with children. Nope. You think you'd find that there's a lot of guys out there who actually probably are very safe, very healthy, very put together, have children that they take care of, right? Whether it's full-time custody or joint custody or whatever, who are more than capable also of providing for the emotional and attention needs of a relationship, a partner relationship.
It depends on the age of the children, I think. If the children are maybe of an adult age or they're out of the house, absolutely. They have the ability to commit to something and get emotionally involved. But when there's a mother still part of the picture, there is kids that are under
always going to be a mother part of the picture unless they're completely out of the picture. Like my kids are 16 and 19. All right. Now
So they're
they
they're
don't live
self-reliant.
with
9-year-old.
right.
Yeah.
But it's like it's one thing if they're like toddlers and you're a single
Yeah.
dad and you have a newborn to a 2-year-old at home. That's one thing. But I do think that don't write off the single dad even with younger
No.
children, because there are a lot of fantastic men out there who will bend over backwards to ensure that whoever they end up with as a partner feels that they are a partner, that they are a part of everything, that they are emotionally supported, and all of that. And in a lot of ways, actually, them being a father makes that happen, because they've learned emotionally and on a and matured emotionally to be able to handle all of the little stressors, to all the little things that go wrong, to look at life in a different way, to keep things on track, and to keep things running. So I would just throw that out there. There's nobody else around to stick up for them, so somebody's got to do it, and I'm one of those guys that sticks up for the underdogs. So
Well,
I'm really going to experiment and see how it goes. I will give you that. I will
Okay.
see how it goes. But from what I've
But even
learned
so-
from relationship psychiatrists, there is something important that you need to understand about couples and for them to survive, especially when kids are involved. There's something called the couple bubble, and everything outside of this couple bubble is a third, and that includes children. But when you are in a relationship with somebody that has children with another individual,
yes.
that dynamic completely shifts. It gets completely combobulated, and it's very difficult to ever feel like you are a priority in somebody's life when their kids are always
100%.
going to, respectfully, I understand it. Their
So-
children are always going to be their highest priority, and you will always
So
place that.
would your children always, if you have children, and I don't know if you do or don't,
No.
would your children be your highest priority in your case?
Absolutely. And I don't
Okay.
like what I'm saying
Right.
is I don't have any
So-
disrespect about it. I'm saying
Yeah.
that I don't think I can personally be in a relationship with somebody where I can't be a priority to them. Their priority.
Well,
Okay.
there's
This-
some self-examination worth having there with that.
I've
but
done
this
a
is-
ton of it. I have. I understand it.
This is very, very, very odd, like demographically. Forest in the number sitting, 2 single dads with 2 women without, children. For that to be with the world's population, for this to be here, and to take up for the single dads. If we go out with a woman with kids, we might, we not only do we have to worry about, what does she bring to the table? Why didn't this work? Here's other kids coming into the picture. Now we got to worry about baby daddy. And if she's been around, she's got 2 or 3 of them. And then you turn around and this guy shows up. Hey, you were such and such, and damn, if you don't want to fight. So not only do you have to worry about taking care of your kids, looking after her kids as she brings them in, then you got to worry about some dickhead over here that still cannot say goodbye and let shit go. That he ain't got a problem with her. Then you're the new man in the picture. So damn if you don't have to break leather to deal with him. And that's another whole issue. So the mommy issues, the daddy issues. Yeah.
That's a good point. But would you say, like, when you're, have you ever been in a position, because we're talking about letting go, saying goodbye and stuff like that.
Right.
Have you ever been in that position, Michael, where you've let someone go and then you've looked at them and gone, why did I do that? Why did I do that?
No, not really. The ones in my life I keep close, but other ones, like if I'm whatever, if it didn't work out, I tried to go back to my ex about 3 or 4 times, and finally I said, look, I'm done. I'm good to go. And now she's the one, 20 some years later, it's like, oh, I know he talks about me. No, he don't. I have learned to, like you said, compartmentalize my life, or whatever you want to call it. I can put things where they need to be in perspective. And I got 2 sons here right now. Talking about failure to launch, 20 and 27 years old. So I got them down on the farm. I want to make them self-made men if it breaks me. And I told them, y'all will work together. Y'all will hate me more than you hate to work, because I want to be productive. Because I still want to travel. I'm going to be an old man. I'm 52 years old. My back hurts. I'm tired of carrying their ass around. And it's like, yeah, but like I said, when you bring in the dynamic of a co-parenting situation or somebody's ex, the older you get, the people you meet, the more people you meet, they have baggage. There's nobody that comes out of this life unscathed.
But I think that's a good point, what Sabrina brings up. And also this is a show that Val and I have talked about doing, the emotionally unavailable people that we think they make out, they're ready to date you, everything's good, and they're completely emotionally unavailable. And also, when you do date someone who has children, and quite rightly so, the children will come first. Absolutely, 100%. I mean, Henry always came first and he wasn't a child, but it was my kid. Would always come first.
He's your fur baby.
You do feel like you're not as a priority as the children are, but because you're in a very different league. You're in a very different situation. And I think it's sometimes juggling all the balls in the air is very, very hard to do. So I think this is a subject that we will definitely come back and look at, the emotionally unavailable man and woman. And if you are dating someone who is married or has had previous children with someone, the dynamics, because there's I myself speak from experience, and Sabrina does, and I think that Michael comes up with a good point, is if you're dating a lady that has got kids, what that can feel like, because all of a sudden you've got these blended families, and if you don't have children, and you come into that situation, you're kind of like, hi, no, I don't have kids. And they're looking at you, and there is this. So thank you, Queen, for giving us that comment. We will look at it. So before I end this, because I'm going to end it early tonight, because I am super tired, but also I know Super Bowl's on, and you guys will be super excited using that word 3 times
to go. About the Super Bowl?
Well, I must admit I don't, but some people do.
Well, like 12, 18 guys running back and forth, and dogpiling on each other over a ball. Like,
it's too much like PT and at JP.
There are infinitely more important things than a lot of overpaid athletes. I will say the commercials are decent, but I think people need to look for other places to find heroes. But that's just me.
Yeah, but not all heroes wear capes. But anyway,
I to say, to let go of someone, to actually say goodbye and let go of someone, it could involve writing a letter, listening to music, writing things down, getting therapy, facing them head on, and dealing with that demon. So you become, you're not thinking, why didn't I say this? Why didn't I do that? It might involve, you might have to move away so you don't see him again, because that might be, sometimes we have to say goodbye to people we don't want to say goodbye to. We want to, but we have no choice but to say goodbye to them. And so if you keep running into them, if you keep bumping into them, one of you has to move. One of you has to change your location if it's that painful. I've been there as well. It also could be the case. Sorry, Michael.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but if I don't, it'll leave me. But my grandma or my grandfather always told me, you don't crap where you eat. So he used to tell me, if you're going to date 50 miles away from your house. That way you don't have to look at her every day. And I used to think, he's just a bitter old man. But the old man, he was way before his time. He really was. If you date in your neighborhood, you're going to trip over these people eventually. Again, you're going to go to the market or the shop. You're going to stop and get gas or petrol. I know we're international.
I think the hardest part, though, Michael, is if you're in the same area, the same community, even if you don't run into them, you're going to be reminded by all the places you went to together.
100%.
You're going to be triggered by, whatever it is, like, oh, there's that park that we went to and we looked at the stars or whatever, right? And it's so hard. That's part of the hard process of letting go, is if you have no choice but to be in that same space. If you have the choice to get away, then awesome, go for it. But yeah,
I know exactly what you mean, because it's like, we went here together, we did this. Sometimes you need to move away from memory.
First is all that. Yeah, I get that too. You know what I'm saying? All this, and but going back to the puppies, when I had Mila about a year, And I started going out with this girl. And Mila sleeps on my pillow. She sleeps on the couch. She was the queen of her castle. Everybody said, "Oh, you're an asshole. You're a patriarchy." What? I was like, "No, it's a matriarchy. The dog runs shit here." She said, "Well, if I come by, the dog will sleep in the floor. They won't sleep in the bed." I said, "Well, we'll be seeing you. This is her home.
Yeah.
Dog's still here. I don't know where she is."
But I also think as well that, sometimes if you live in a house with someone and that relationship has ended, and not only are you saying goodbye to that relationship, you want to get rid of that house, because everywhere you look, you walk in the house and you're reminded of memories. And I know that because even losing just with Henry, I come into the house, it's really, really empty. There's something missing. Everywhere I go, there's memories. And sometimes I don't want to be here. I don't want to see this. I don't want to do it. It's not that easy sometimes to move away financially, whatever the reasons are. But I understand what you're saying is that sometimes you have to start afresh. You have to pick yourself up, move away if you can, or if they can't. And sometimes that's very cathartic for you to actually move away completely. And the other thing I want to say, which is the one thing that we haven't looked at, and I want to end on this subject with all four of you. What happens when we have to say goodbye or let something go of ourselves that we may not want to do, or we have to let go because it's no good for us? And I'll start with Jason, and Michael, and then to the lovely Sabrina. Jason, is there something in your life that in you had to say goodbye to in you, or had to let go about yourself because it wasn't serving you? And was it easy to do it?
That's a tough one. And I say it's a tough one because outside of my rekindled, nicotine consumption, for the most part, if it's been something that, to let go of, if there's been some sort of behavioral kind of thing, habits, whatever, it's been something where it's just like, okay, I got hit hard enough, I learned my lesson, and I stopped doing that. I never really looked at it as I'm giving something up. Mm-hmm. I looked at it as I'm just adapting to my situation, changing the behavior. So to say, is there something that I have given up? I don't know. I think everything kind of has its own time and season, and you kind of either mature out of it or you don't mature out of it, whatever it is, or you learn from it and you just adapt and change your behavior. So, I guess when you say something of yourself that you have to give up, could you maybe clarify that a little bit more?
So is there a part of you that you've had to say goodbye to, as in that behavior didn't serve me, I've had to let it go, that thought pattern had to go, I had to get rid of it? Or is there something about yourself that you've gone, look, you need to get a grip of this isn't working, say goodbye? And it's about ourselves, because sometimes we have destructive behavior, or sometimes we will have something that is toxic that we do. And sometimes we don't want to let it go because we like it about ourselves, or, it brings ourselves comfort, but it doesn't serve our life in certain ways. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Yeah, I think more than anything, I've just had to change my behaviors, I think, because the stuff that doesn't serve me that I would need to get rid of, I literally can't. ADHD for one, and all of the joyous things that go along with it, and the superpowers, because there are some. But I can't give it up. It isn't something I can change about myself. The only thing I can do is just adapt. So.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you, Michael. What about you?
Yeah, like I said, I gave up the drink when I got out of the Army. When I had to give up my career because of age and health issues. Some of them I couldn't control. That really hurt. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to give that up. And it took me a long time to identify as something other than in that part of my life. And now I identify as Mila and Poseidon's dad, a better father to my kids. And like I said, give up the drinking. I know somebody would be very happy if I give up the nicotine part of it, but that's the only bad habit I got left. But no, and I tell them, I have learned it took me a long time to learn. Sometimes you just have to give people up. If somebody's in your life, and even if they're family, when I learned to have the ability to walk away from people who did not deserve me in their life, my life got significantly better. And, you know, like I said, there's Wendy here. She has saw it, you know, come up, you know, start back to school, you know, start doing things that I never thought I'd be able to do before. And like I said, you know, sometimes I make light of some things, you know, stuff about like, you know, you don't date in your own neighborhood, whatever, you know, we've all been guilty of it. But I figure learning to have a really good sense of humor when it comes to life really helps. I would look at the glass as half full as half empty, you know, the whole pessimistic, you know, the whole Igor or whatever his name is on Winnie the Pooh, think it's going to rain today, you know.
Eeyore.
Eeyore, yeah, him too. But so I had to fill out, you know, and I tell them words have powers. You know, words are spells. You get them and say, "Well, I feel like crap." No, you're gonna feel like shit the rest of the day. Oh, this has got me so far down. Okay, you know, it's only down because you're giving it power that lets you down, and you're putting more power into it with the words. And I have had to learn to like refocus a lot of my energy. And I have the ADHD too. And you know, me and JP had this talk offline. And I told him, I said, go to your doctor, find a medication, you know, then lock it up because it really helps, and it's really helped me a lot. And but even, you know, but like I said, you know, letting things go. The older I get, if it's toxic people, I've really learned to let them go pretty quick.
That's good to know.
I don't burn them bridges. I nuke them because I know them bitches ain't going to them. You know,
Sabrina, let's come to you. How are you? What have you had to say goodbye to in yourself?
I have had to say goodbye to dating people that are emotionally unavailable. Like that is my goal right now. No more emotionally unavailable people. I think that's in really embracing also the fact that I am enough as I am, that I have value, that I am lovable, that, you know, and I have these affirmations that I go through every day that help remind me that I have a lot to give and that I don't need to have another person to be complete, that I am complete already. And really, I'm just looking for someone to complement my life, to share my life with.
That's a wonderful way to end. I mean, for me, I'm sorry, Michael, did you want to say something?
Yeah, that goes back to what, you know, the older you get, you tell people it's not that I need you, I want you. And there is a difference. And they say, oh, no, it's similar. I said, well, that's why we cannot be compatible. Because if you don't know the difference between I want you, then I need you for my life to go on, I said, then they're part of the problem.
Well,
I didn't mean it, but like I said, but that just popped right in. I'm like, yeah. But when you can figure out where you are in a point of your life where you can tell people that there's difference between needs and wants, and you know what side of the bridge you stand on, your life gets a whole lot better.
Oh,
you know,
most
I look
of
at
people,
yeah,
most of those people, Mike, that can't differentiate between needing and wanting, or needing and probably more simplified, needing and choosing.
Yeah.
When you want someone in your life to complete your life, to complement your life, if you will, you're making an active choice at that point, and you make that same choice every day. And I need you. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Let's get that vein popped up. I need you. Now you have some sort of chemical thing that's going on that's making you need something, to fill a void. Wanting. If I want someone, I'm in my life, I am choosing that person every day, and someone making a choice has infinitely more value than someone who is just riding off of a biochemical hormone need, space to fill kind of thing. And it adds more value when somebody says, I want you in my life and I choose you. So
you what?
Wendy, how about you? What are you letting go of?
God,
Oh, how the
know-
turntables.
I was just sitting there thinking about that because, I always wanted to be able to say goodbye to people. I always wanted to have that power to say, no, I can't do this. I don't want this anymore. I'm walking away. And I never could do it. I would put up with the situation again and again and again. I had a real problem with letting things go, with letting people go. And I think it was a part of me I hated because I felt it was a weakness that I could not say goodbye. I couldn't get, I was like, come on, Wendy, like everyone else is going, you can see everybody else doing it, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't say, and it wasn't just boyfriends. It was friends who I knew were not good friends to me, that I didn't need in my life and shouldn't have had in my life. But it was still, I didn't have the courage or the strength to say that. And I think a lot of it comes with age. I think as you start to get older, you really don't give a shit as much.
No.
Because you've been there, done it, ticked it off, and you're like, well, that didn't work for me in my 30s and it didn't work for me in my 40s. So now it's going to be completely different. And I think there is that part of you that just doesn't give a shit anymore, and you just come out and say it. But I still find myself, and also I'm a people pleaser. I've always had it extends in my family, people pleaser. We'll do it. No, it's okay. Don't worry, I've got my own life and things to do, but you just walk right through me and I'll do it for you. I can't say no. And then if I do say no, I feel guilty that I've said no, because so I wanted to let that go. And I had a situation recently, very recent in my life, where I couldn't do something. Oh my God, the shit I got for that I could not do it. And it was the guilt trip. It was the emotional manipulation. It was everything thrown at me. And I just felt, you know what? I adore this person, but I'm not going to put up with this. I have got to take care of me. And there comes a time where sometimes you have to turn around and go, no. So my goodbye, my letting go of is stop being that people pleaser and actually say goodbye sometimes, even if I don't want to. And that is something I'm still learning, and it's a process every day. And I think anybody who's watching this, if I could give them any guidance, would be saying goodbye to someone is not easy. It's painful. Sometimes it's liberating. Sometimes it's powerful, and sometimes it's heartbreaking. But I think you owe it to yourself and that person to make it as clear cut and as honest as you can. For them, they don't walk away wondering, what did I do? What didn't I do? What's going on? What's the situation? And you don't walk away, or you don't know what the situation was. So I would ask anyone who's thinking about that, be clear, be focused, and give clarity of why you're walking away, why you're letting go, and why you're saying goodbye. And certainly if you've lost somebody and you need to say, you didn't get a chance to say goodbye to them, write it down, burn the letter, or write it down, read it out loud. Do anything you can that I've got to bring this comment up here before do some of these things you need to do, but you have to be in a position and ready to do that. Queen says walking away from something you still want is so hard, because we always want sometimes the things that we know are not right for us. Guys, you've been amazing. I'm gonna say goodbye to the lads and but Jason, thank you forever for joining us. It's so lovely to see you. Good luck with the move.
To see all of you.
When are you going? When are you moving?
It'll be May. So it's one of those things where May, that's a ways off. Yeah, time clicks off like that. So it'll be around here, right around the corner soon.
Yeah.
Late May.
Will you still be with us? Will you still join us? Will you still have the ability to come on board on Scotty's show and Wicked Women?
Yeah, everything I do with you guys is always from my phone. So as long as I have internet, and it's not a massive EMP pulse or something that takes out the communications grid. Yeah.
Well, That's fine. Well, listen, have a great Sunday. Lovely to see you, honey. See you
Thanks.
soon. Michael, thank you for coming on and joining us. It's been fabulous. And some of the points you brought up tonight, like Jason did, very on point. You know, what Sabrina and I were talking about other things, but from a man's point of view and seeing it from a guy's point of view. So thank you for sharing that, sweetie. Thank you so much, as always, for being Mr. Wicked. Thank you for that,
Yes.
sweetie.
Speaking of the other Mr. Wicked, I see him playing with the fish behind you.
Yes, he's there. Trying to get the
Yes, ma'am.
fish. But thank you so much, sweetie. See you soon.
Yes, ma'am.
Sabrina, fabulous show. Thank you so much. I loved your input and the fact that you would ask, you'd come across with a comment, but I'm just going to pick you up on that, and I'm just going to ask on that. I loved it.
Yeah. I for some reason on this show, I feel more inclined to interject when I feel very passionate about responding to something someone says, because I think that if I'm having that same thought, there's probably other people also feeling or thinking the same thing. So thanks for allowing me the opportunity to share my perspective.
Literally, my pleasure. And that's the thing about Wicked Women. As you said, we are a podcast by women for women, but we do bring the guys on because it helps to hear it from both sides of the coin. And that women go away and think, oh, hang on a minute. And men walk away and they go, well, hang on a minute. And that's the thing, because communication is so important. And if we're not clear and we don't give clarity in our communication, we're all screwed. Now, I know what you're going to do for the rest of the day, Sabrina. You're going to watch the Super Bowl, aren't you?
I'm not. So I'll be fair. Like, I don't care about football. I am here to eat the food, watch the commercials, watch halftime show, take my dog for a walk, and that's about it. Drink some wine and call it a good Sunday. But yeah, I will say I will be rooting for the San Francisco 49ers just because of family ties to San Francisco. So go 49ers.
We don't tend to, as I say, it is on over here. It's not really as big, I would say. But but we are interested in the halftime, the who the singer is and what movie clips they're going to show. And I know they've had Beyonce before, and I think Rihanna and etc. I don't know who they got this year. Who's singing this year?
I believe it's Usher.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's what I remember hearing, at least. So
I'm not sure I'd actually tune in just to see him as well. But I remember when they had a movie, one of the Star Wars films. I think they had one of the Star Wars clips, and everyone was watching it for that. But listen, you have an amazing day, and I want to thank everybody for joining Sabrina and I tonight, wherever you are, whether it be United States, Canada, United Kingdom. We hope you'll come and join us next Sunday, 10 o'clock UK. Let me get this right. 5 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock Eastern, and 3 o'clock Mountain time. Have a great week. Take care of yourself and each other. And Val, get well soon. We'll see you soon. Let me just bring up the music and we'll be gone. See you later, guys.
see you.